You ever been arrested on your own dock at sunrise, with half your neighbors filming it like some kind of reality TV premiere? Because that's exactly where I found myself, knee-deep in lake water at 6 in the morning, trying to launch my battered old boat for a little fishing and peace, when Margaret Thornfield came barreling down the dock like she owned the whole planet. "Arrest him!" she shrieked, face twisted, her perfectly manicured finger jabbing inches from my nose while some poor deputy fumbled with his cuffs and tried not to spill his coffee. "Ma'am, this is my property," I managed, shivering in my waders, as 15 people watched with their phones out, filming the circus. "Not anymore," she screamed, spit flying, and before I knew it, I was being hauled off in handcuffs while my 12-foot aluminum boat bobbed beside me, looking almost as confused as I was. Here's the real punchline, though. 10 minutes after those cuffs clicked, I owned her precious Marina. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What would you do if they tried to haul you away on your own dock? Drop your location and your worst HOA nightmare below, because trust me, it gets a lot crazier from here. Let me back up a second, give you the real story. Name's Jake Morrison, and a few years back, life punched me right in the gut. I lost my wife Sarah to cancer. We'd bought this slice of lake heaven about 15 years ago, our dream retirement spot. 12 acres, private water, total peace you can't even price. We started every morning together out on that dock, coffee in hand, watching the mist roll off the water. There was nothing like it. The sound of loons, the soft slap of waves, pine needles in the air, and her lavender shampoo. That dock was where we held on to each other, right through her hardest days. After Sarah passed, fishing at dawn was my lifeline. Just me and Rex, my German shepherd, out on the water before sunrise, chasing a little calm. That old boat wasn't just a boat. It was what kept me from sinking into grief. For a while, life made sense. Then along came Margaret Maggie Thornfield, the human version of stepping barefoot on a Lego, except she ran for HOA president like it was a personal war. She's the type who parks her white BMW SUV diagonally just to prove a point, always overdressed, always in command, the kind of person who'd fine you for breathing too loud. She'd been a city council member until the town finally voted her out. Couldn't stand her. Within a week of taking over the HOA, violation notices tripled. Christmas lights up in January? $200. Dog barking? $150. A garden gnome facing the wrong way. Don't even think about it. Me? I stayed out of it. Kept my property clean, paid dues on time, hoped she'd get bored. But then came the letter, certified mail, HOA letterhead, all the drama. A $500 fine for unauthorized watercraft storage and visual pollution. Visual pollution, she actually wrote that about my little fishing boat. According to Maggie, my launch area, the one that had been here longer than half the people in this neighborhood, was suddenly in violation of the community lakefront uniformity requirement. The real kicker? My dock was now declared common HOA property. She'd attached a pink-scented letter about market positioning. I kid you not. She said my dock was an aesthetic liability. All this over a fishing boat that probably cost less than her monthly hair appointments. I tried reasoning. Called her that night. Explained about the deed, about Sarah, about the water rights. She didn't care. The HOA supersedes individual claims when community welfare is threatened. She said, I see as January. 30 days to remove it or face escalating penalties. I hung up staring at Rex, who looked just as lost as I felt. I thought, all right, that's how she wants to play it. Things escalated fast. 3 days later, a hand-delivered notice. Emergency board meeting, Thursday night. All waterfront owners required. That paper even smelled like Maggie's perfume, somehow aggressive. I walked in expecting a handful of folks. Instead, the place was packed. Maggie sat up front like a judge, suit sharper than her tone, flanked by her nephew Curtis, the HOA's resident lawyer. She opened the meeting talking about serious threats to property values and legal standing. Like I was dumping toxic waste, not launching a boat. Then Curtis unrolled a new survey map, a different one from what I'd had for years. According to them, my dock extended 15 feet into common HOA waters. People murmured. I pulled out my original deed and 2009 survey. Sarah made me keep every document organized, and thank God she did. My papers showed clear water rights, 200 feet from my shoreline, every privilege spelled out in black and white. Curtis went pale as a ghost looking them over. Surveys can be outdated, Maggie snapped, but her voice had lost some of that courtroom swagger. That's when Mrs. Victoria, my 78-year-old neighbor, stood up. Jake's been using that dock since before the HOA even existed, she said. We borrowed his ramp when our grandkids visited. A couple others nodded, folks I'd helped out over the years. Maggie tried to play the insurance card, talking about community liability, trying to scare everyone about lawsuits. But I kept my cool. 15 years, no incidents, no complaints until 6 months ago. She fired back about fiduciary responsibilities. The tension in that room could have snapped a fishing rod in half. Maggie ended it by declaring I had 30 days to tear down my dock or face legal action and added fees. Next Monday, I woke up to Derek, Maggie's unemployed son-in-law, standing on my property line in a brand new security uniform, clipboard in hand, pickup running in my driveway. I'm conducting lakefront patrol for the HOA, he said, not meeting my eyes. He'd hammered in plastic, no trespassing signs, on my land. Every morning, 6 a.m., he'd park his truck to block my path to the water, sit there scribbling notes like he was running the Pentagon. Meanwhile, I spent my afternoons at the county records office, digging through every HOA document I could find. Dolores, the clerk, eventually pulled me aside. You'll want to see this, she said, sliding over Maggie's election paperwork. Turns out, her so-called victory as HOA president? Completely invalid. The election notices weren't even mailed to everyone, let alone sent by certified mail like the law required. No return receipts, nothing. Half the community never even got a vote. But Maggie's campaign wasn't just about me anymore. She started rallying new residents, folks who didn't know the history, spreading rumors that I'd lost it after Sarah died, suggesting a grieving widower shouldn't be, endangering community resources. Neighbors started avoiding eye contact. Then came another certified letter, threatening legal action if I didn't remove my illegal structures. I realized Maggie's arrogance had exposed her. She was so focused on crushing me, she'd made a mess big enough to bury herself. But she had one more move. She tried to buy out Hendrick's Marina, the only other boat access on the lake, offering $50,000 from HOA emergency funds to turn it into an exclusive club, HOA members only. But Tommy, Derek's cousin and the Marina dockhand, heard it all and tipped me off. Using emergency funds like that? Illegal as hell. Then Mrs. Victoria came through again, showing me old photos and a newspaper clipping from 1994, proving the developer guaranteed lake access for all property owners, forever. The real breakthrough came in the basement of the county office, a dusty binder with the original lake covenant, spelling out every right. Dock construction, boat launching, recreation, all guaranteed in perpetuity. Even better, I found out the marina's lease had expired years ago, never renewed, so the property was in tax default, up for auction for unpaid back taxes. $12,000 and the place was mine. No competition, just me and a certified check at the courthouse. By the time Maggie realized what was happening, it was too late. She showed up at the marina with Curtis and Derek, trying to bluff their way into stopping the sale. I just smiled. Good luck, Maggie. County says I own it. Her face turned so many shades of red, I thought she might pass out. She tried calling in favors, spreading rumors, even doctoring an audio recording of our conversation at the dock to make it sound like I was extorting her. Didn't work. Mrs. Victoria caught the edits immediately, and the board started doubting her. Meanwhile, her fake social media accounts tried to smear my name, but my neighbors figured out the IP address led straight to Maggie's home Wi-Fi. Even Derek, caught between loyalty and common sense, gave up on the clipboard routine when I threatened to have him trespassed from my own property. Then came the final act. Maggie called an emergency community meeting, packed the hall, stood up front with her evidence, that same butchered audio, tried to paint me as the villain holding lake access hostage. That's when I walked up, laid out every document. Original lake covenant, invalid election paperwork, proof of misused funds, and the full, unedited recording of our dock conversation. Commissioner Patricia Wells and a sheriff's deputy walked in and handed Maggie a cease and desist for harassment and misuse of HOA money. Maggie's face. Priceless. Curtis fled. The room, for the first time in months, was on my side. She screamed about conspiracies, but even her diehard supporters were shaking their heads. By Monday, Maggie had resigned in disgrace. Derek moved 2 towns over. Curtis went back to being a boring contract lawyer. I took over the Marina, restored access to every original homeowner, just like the covenant said. Property values went up. Families moved in for the fishing program I started in Sarah's honor. Every Saturday, 25 kids learning to fish, Mrs. Victoria telling lake stories, parents snapping pictures while Rex supervised. Even the county tourism board took notice. The new HOA board, properly elected, cut violations by 70%, focused on real issues. People started talking again. Laughter replaced gossip and suspicion. Early mornings on the dock are peaceful now, sometimes full of neighbors who once avoided me. I still talk to Sarah out there, tell her about the kids, about the lake, about how we turned the ugliest fight of my life into something good. You tell me, was I wrong for fighting back? Have you ever faced down an HOA bully? Drop your craziest story or your location in the comments. Let's make sure people like Maggie know, when a community stands together, justice wins every single time.